Hi kids, it's Mrs. Haas. We're still reading Ruby Holler, and we are still on chapter 27. So last week the kids remember they left because they thought they were gonna catch the train, and actually they got lost. And then they woke up, and Sari and Tiller were there when they woke up and were making them breakfast and said, "Oh, such a great idea that you decided to use all your camping gear." And like trying to like just say, "Oh yeah, you guys just decided to try it out," not that they were trying to leave, which was really sweet of them. So now we're that's where we're at. Is they're still in the holler and they're still camping out, and Sari and Tiller are there. While Dallas and Florida went back to get their sleeping bags, Tiller and Sari packed up the breakfast things. "Well," Tiller said, "how did I do?" "You did fine," Sari said. "Only because I kept my mouth pretty much closed." "It keeps you out of trouble," said Sari. "I guess you were right," he said. "They weren't out here stealing our money like you thought." "I thought." "Of course they weren't," she said. "And I guess you were right, too, about them trying to run away." Sari stood with her hands on her hips. "I don't know what got into them. I really don't. Are you sure you didn't say anything to them to scare them off?" "I've been on my best behavior, honest," said Tiller. "I'm just glad we found them. I don't know what we'd have done if we hadn't." Sari pressed her hand against the middle of her forehead. "Sleeping on the ground isn't so easy anymore, is it?" "Nope," said Tiller. Sari gathered up the pans. "Now look, Tiller, you be extra nice to those kids. Do you hear?" Tiller bowed. "Yes, ma'am, whatever you say." "I mean it." "I know you do," he said, "and I will try my best to be Mr. Personality." Mr. Trepid was standing by her bedroom window, Mrs. Trepid, staring into the two empty trash cans rolling against the curb. Clank, clank, clank they went. She wished someone would go and pick up those cans and stop that annoying noise. A young woman walked past, her arms swinging loosely, obviously, to the clanking trash cans. Look at her, said Mrs. Trepid thought, walking along without a care in the world. She wanted to throw something at the woman, to jolt her out of her little dream world. Mrs. Trepid, as Trepid's gaze shifted to the porch below. It was on that same porch that the twins had first appeared in a box. She'd even seen the woman who left them. From this very window, where she stood now, Mrs. Trepid had spotted the woman bundled in a tattered and faded green dress bending over the box. The woman had leaned down so close into the box, and then she rushed down the walk, her hands pressed to her face. And then Morgan called up the stairs to say that there were two babies in a box. Two twins! Mrs. Trepid talked her husband into ripping up the forms they were supposed to submit to the authorities, reporting the twins' arrival. Let's not tell yet, she said. Maybe these could be our babies. The more she thought about it, the more she feared that the woman in the tattered green dress would return and claim them. When Mrs. Trepid was out walking the babies in the buggy, she was always watching for the terrified woman that she would appear and snatch the babies away. When people came to the home to meet the other children, Mrs. Trepid tried to keep the twins hidden. Once, when this couple saw the twins and inquired about them, Mrs. Trepid said, "They're already taken." Remember, Mr. and Mrs. Trepid are not nice people. They run the foster home. Even as infants, Florida was the squirmy one, and Dallas was the quieter, dreamier one. Mrs. Trepid was intrigued by the way they clung to each other, and the way they responded to each other's gurgles, and the way that they would reach for each other when they were separated. Two babies who came into the world at the same time. Sometimes Mrs. Trepid felt a little jealous of them. They'll always have each other. They'll always have one person who understands them completely. At first, Mrs. Trepid didn't want Morgan or Mr. Trepid to help care for the twins. She wanted to do it all by herself. But she had so little patience, and always one of them needed attention, and she hated it when they howled and squirmed. So much trouble every single day. She started wishing the woman in the tattered green dress would come back and claim them. After one particular trying day, Mrs. Trepid snared her husband. "File the forms," she said. "Tell the authorities that the twin kids have arrived and that they are available." To her surprise, though, people were wary of taking on twins. Twins, they'd say? Who would want to take two at once? It's a lovely idea, but no thanks. By the time the twins were toddlers, Mrs. Trepid couldn't bear their stumbling and falling and screaming and banging and breaking and spitting. Everything they did was louder and messier than all the other kids did, or at least that's how it seemed to Mrs. Trepid. Now, as she stood in the window looking down the street, Mrs. Trevett thought about all the long years ahead and wondered how she could live through more children and more running and spitting and banging and leaving. Clank, clank, clank. The garbage vans bashed against the curb below. Mrs. Trevett leaned out the windows. Someone pick up those, she pleaded. They're driving me crazy. She is really not a nice lady. So now we're on chapter 29. We're getting closer to the end, which is great because I feel like this book has gone on forever. But I really like it. So hopefully you guys are thinking about what's going to happen and what those twins are going to do. So now those twins, now they have a choice. Are they going to stay with Siri and Tiller and go on their campouts, or are they going to try and run away again? So we will see what happens. And what are the Truppets up to? Something fishy with the Truppets. They're up to something with those twins. All right, well, I hope you guys have a good week and that you find really fun books to read. And that if you do, please drop off your books to the library. I have a box outside the library for you to drop your books off to. And I'm usually there between 10 and 12 if you need to get another book. I will see you soon. Bye.